Hey YouTube, Jeremy right here. I think today is Wednesday, March 5, 2024, and I'm about to set up this tank, which is a 37-gallon tall. So this tank is like 2 feet tall, top to bottom, about 3 feet wide, 1 foot front to back. It currently has live soil in the bottom, and it's capped by about 1.5 inches of pool filter sand. What I'm going to do now is begin the process of filling this tank. So I'm going to run to another room and begin by pulling some water out of a tank that actually needs a water change. No big deal, that's perfect. So the tank I'm going to go to is one of my convict cichlid tanks. It's going to have slightly high phosphate, maybe even higher nitrate right now, but that's totally fine for beginning an aquarium. But for the moment, I'm going to split into another room, grab some water, and then rejoin in just a moment. So just now, about to begin filling. And there's a bit of a paper bag in the bottom of this. Okay, so there's a paper bag just laying in the bottom of the tank here, just a brown paper bag, like a grocery bag. And I'm just pouring the water straight onto that. Mainly because my arms just aren't long enough to reach down in there. Normally I would put in a shorter tank, I would just reach my hand down in here and pour the water onto my hand to break the fall. But I really can't do that for this one. There's a bunch of stuff in here. You can see here, this is leading up to a hang-on back filter that's up in this area. Whoa, sorry for that motion. And it's just in my way. So I'm using a 3-gallon. Well, you know what? I can break the fall a little bit. Not as well as I'd like to. So the paper bag is really preventing the falling water from drilling a hole in the sand, because there's dirt under there, and I want the dirt to stay under the sand. So there's our first 3 gallons or so. And if you didn't really catch what I'm trying to describe, that's it. So if I were to just pour the water down into here, it would puncture the sand, and I would end up with this dirt that's under here all above this stuff. So I'm gonna go get some more water and continue this process. All right, so we've poured 3 gallons of water from a convict tank in here, going in with another 3 gallons. You can probably see now that this paper bag is starting to float. And it's becoming a very good cushion. It's actually working better than I thought it would. What I'll be doing next is getting another 3 gallons from the same tank. And after I've pulled 9 gallons of water out of that the 29-gallon tank that I'm working with, I'll probably hold off from pulling out of that tank and move to a 55. That's a guppy tank that could stand a water change. It's got a little bit of nitrate, but not really the phosphate level. So From here, I've given it phosphate. The soil below here has a nice mix of bone meal, which is going to provide magnesium, calcium, several other things. It's got some Osmocote slow release pellets. It has organic compost in it and some soil that was in the bottom of another aquarium. It wasn't fresh. It's been out of that tank about 6 weeks, but there's still some biology alive in it. Pausing, and I'm going to go grab another 3 gallons of water and then begin pulling water out of another tank. All right, so I did pull 9 gallons out of a 29, and with the substrate and hardscape that's in that tank, that's effectively like a 40% water change from my smaller convict tank, the 29 gallon I was talking about. And I've now pulled another 3 gallons out of a 55 gallon guppy tank, which is my Central American Biotope attempt. And I'm dribbling a little bit of water outside, but not to worry. I'll probably be searching for some hardscape moving into the next few days. There's actually a spot I want to go to behind my mother's place, and I'll be pulling some plants from behind my father's house in his pond. So I think this may be an Arkansas Biotope attempt, like a Little Rock Biotope. And one of the next things I'm going to do while I'm pulling water out of this 55, I'm going to steal one of the 4-foot shop lights off of the top of that and bring it in here and set it up. So pausing, moving on to that project. Okay, so after removing that light, I didn't like it being off and away from the 55, so I left all 4 lamps that were on that tank, and I'm just going to get another from above this area and drop it down. But this is now the 6th, or rather the 4th, 5th, and 6th gallons from that 55 going in here. And I'm pondering on the Arkansas Biotope concept. I may leave this tank as it is for a moment. So in other words, I think this is going to be a 2-part video. Now that the water level's up a bit, I can remove this paper bag. It held up really well. Actually, I'm going to use this trick in the future. So, just a paper grocery bag. It broke the fall really nicely, and it had an added benefit I wasn't expecting. It began floating as I started filling, and I'll give you a view of the substrate now. It's relatively undisturbed from the fill process, which is really what we want. I may add a bit more substrate. Moving in, it's maybe not quite as thick as I'd like. I saved some of this pool filter sand, just expecting that I may want to add more. And in fact, I am going to do that. So I'll go ahead and empty this bag and let it distribute around a bit. But most people would begin aquascaping before they do this. And honestly, I used to be an aquascaper, and then I just got better at creating ecosystems and keeping plants and fish alive. And now, more so than the aquascaping, I care about making a healthy happy natural ecosystem. And now the one way that I'm diverging from the natural area I'm thinking of recreating is that my ecosystem here is sand bottom instead of dirt bottom, or at least the surface that I'll be planting into is sand. But that's strategic. And you'll notice it's kind of cloudy. No big deal at all. After a day or two, all of that will settle and move along. Now, people with shorter arms may find aquascaping tools to be helpful. I have never cared for them. I used to have aquascaping tools, rakes, and smoothing devices. Your hand works pretty well. In fact, it's probably one of the best tools you have is your hand, unless you're handicapped. And if you're handicapped, just ask somebody who has a hand to help. And who doesn't like playing in aquariums? Like, if they don't like playing in aquariums, they're the wrong kind of help. Otherwise, just ask somebody. And if your arms aren't very long, go grab some tools. That's fine. Otherwise, there's not really a need for them unless you're just having a hard time reaching down into the bottom of your tank. So, from this point, I can't quite start the filter yet, but it's a good moment for me to go and refill the other tanks I was working with. I've already got a ram's horn snail in here. So I'm going to remove this guy. Oh, it's an empty shell. Okay, it can stay. Ram's horn snails, Endoplenorubus, from India. They're spirals in a single plane, and they're from India, so thus their Latin name, Endoplenorubus. I often feed them to my convict cichlids. And maybe that's not the best, kindest thing, but eh. And you know, I say I'm going to make an Arkansas biotope. I was actually planning on planting some really tall Madagascar lace and other plants in here that I've got in another tank, but I think I'm going to hold off on that and go with the Arkansas biotope thing. So for now, this video has effectively just been the substrate. So I think I'll just cut here and leave the planting and scaping for tomorrow when I've actually harvested some plants. However, I'm going to say with a caveat, yes, I'm going into nature to harvest some plants, but I'm doing it from private land, which is going to be my parents' properties, respectively. And you can do that on private land with the permission of the landowner. You cannot do that. Like if I just went to the banks of the Arkansas River, can't do that. But I can go to a drainage ditch that drains into the Arkansas River if it's on private property and ask the landowner if I can have permission to do that. No problem there. Check your local laws, but that's pretty much how the law is going to be in most places in the United States. What I'm planning on searching for is Proserpinaca palustris, Riccia crystalwort, and I'll show you. There's another little grass that I've actually, this stuff here, I don't know if it's a Nahas, but this is a plant that I've been pulling out of my dad's pond, and it's just awesome, really bombastic little grass, but I don't know what it is yet. It's not listed in our local ecological PDFs for grasses. Also, this guy here, I don't know if you can see that plant. I'm going to try and harvest some of that also from my dad's pond. There's another little bit of it. And yeah, we'll just see what I can find. Otherwise, it's time to refill some of these tanks that I've been robbing water out of. It's just tank maintenance day. And in order to move this aquarium up into where it is, I had to drain this 27 gallon to push it forward on this desk. And it's now time to refill it, refill this 5 gallon, and refill this 10 gallon, as well as the other tanks that I was draining. So I'm gonna cut here for the day and begin filling these tanks back up. And once I've gotten the plants that I'm planning on using for this 37 gallon, I'll renew this video. Otherwise, thanks for joining me today. I'm Jeremy, and it's gonna be fun. Catch you soon.